Instagram Reels don't work as easy as they once did. There's a lot of people creating Reels, and so it takes a lot more work to stand out and get noticed. And one of the ways that you can really make your Reels stand out is by having a unique style, having a certain way that you do things so that people start to recognize your Reel. So today I wanted to show you how you can create your own eye-catching Reels in Canva. So how you can utilize Canva to create something that stands out, is on brand, and really captures attention. I'm going to utilize things like animation, transitions, and text and captions to create something that is more interesting and dynamic and stands out. You don't need fancy video editing software to be able to create something that is unique and catches attention. So let's dive into Canva and get creating. Alright, and let's design a fun, unique, standout reel. So I'm going to show you some different techniques. You don't need to put everything in one reel. So this might be an over-designed reel in some ways, but you may want to do reels that do have a lot of detail like this. So it's totally up to you, but I just wanted to show you some fun things to really get you thinking creatively how you can utilize Canva to create something that's really going to stand out and be unique, and that you can really create in a branded way so that people start to recognize your unique reel style. But first of all, what you want to do is set up your page. So you want to go to create a design, and we want to look for Instagram Reels. So if you don't see it, you can just put it into search. And this is going to give you the video style that is the correct size. So now what we want to do is bring in our video. So I've got some video here from a reel I created earlier in the year, and it was one that I think works well for this sort of technique, so we'll use this to work on it. So the first thing we want to do is put this in, so I'll just put the volume down. And we want to work out where we want to crop it. So you can crop it by coming up the top here and cropping like that, or you can crop down the bottom here, so find the start and just drag along. And then find the end and drag along. And if you need to cut something and like pull out middle parts, you just go to where you need to cut bit, right click and split page like that, and that will turn it into a separate one where you can edit it that way too. So if there's something in the middle you need to cut out, you can do it that way. So we've got this one first. And what I'm going to do as a technique for this one is get rid of the background so we can add a more fun background. So that's one thing we can do with Canva, is remove the background from a video and add in a more interesting background. Alright, so we've got rid of the background on this now. So now we can add a new background. So we can come into elements. So we want to go down to video. Of course, you can do whatever you want if you just want a plain background, but the video backgrounds are kind of cool. So you can see in here under video you've got backgrounds. So there's some in there you can look for. Otherwise, you can actually search what you particularly want. So I'm going to try paper. And so we're going to find some wrinkly paper, basically, some moving paper texture. Something like this. Now, that one's probably a little bit fast. So we can go to playback and slow it down. So we're going to go to layer, send to back. And as you can see now, we've got an interesting background. Now, obviously having a cool background like this is just an option. You may think that's a bit too much, or you may just want to have a plain background rather than a moving background. Now, as you can see, it is cut out a little fuzzy. So if you actually are planning to do something like this, the best thing to do is actually record with a very plain background behind you so it cuts out a lot cleaner. So if you stand with just a white wall behind you or a plain colored wall, that's going to make a much cleaner cutout, so it's not going to look so fuzzy. So this video probably wasn't the most ideal for cutting out and having a background behind it like that, but I just wanted to show you this technique. So if you decide to do something like that, think about when you record, making sure that you record in a way where you set that up so it does work well. Now, the other thing that it's done, because we put this background in, is extended the length of this, so we need to check whether it should end again. I'm just going to split and then remove what we didn't want. So now we've got it correct. So now we've set up our page as such. Now we want to add in typography. So the next thing we can look at is type. So we can come over to type here and we can actually choose here captions. So we want the video with audio captions, generate, and it's going to actually give us captions. And then what we can do is style these captions to make them a lot more interesting. So I'm going to bring this up here and I'm going to choose a font. Choose the color, Now, because I've got that textured background, I don't really need a background on my text. So I can go to effects here and say none, but you can obviously choose a lot of different effects here if you want a particular look or feel. We can also increase the size here. So you can basically make any adjustment that you would normally make to text, which means you can make this really fun and interesting. So let's play that through. Now another thing we could do is add in some graphical elements. So let's think we have an artist, so maybe we could have paint brush. So we could add something like this maybe. Artist, and then designer, maybe a pen. And then illustrator, maybe a pencil. So this is just to show you that you could start adding graphic elements on top. Now with graphic elements, we can time them. So we can click on these three dots. We want to choose here, show element timing. And so we can now make sure that it times with when I actually say that word. So for artist, starts there. Yep, so then we got designer. So we want that to start after, and then illustrator after that, so we can test that out. So you can play with that timing and get that just right. You could also, if you wanted to, add animations to actually make those elements move around if you wanted to. So we've got different transitions for it coming in. Or we can do something like wiggle, where we just make it move about a little bit on the page. We can just turn the intensity down. See, now it's wiggling about, so that makes it even more interesting. Like that. Now we can also use a cutout technique. So if you find an image that isn't like this, where it's already cut out. All right, so let's say for example, we were going to use a coffee cup in it and we want it to be cut out rather than like this. So if you find an image that you need cut out, if you want that sort of look, and we also, it's sort of a very collagey style doing things like this. So what we can do for this one is we can go into apps and you want to type in choppy. So we get choppy crop. And now we can actually cut out this image in a sort of scrapbooky choppy way. And add to design. So now we can remove that one. So if we wanted a style like that, we can also do that. And as you can see, then you can decide when it shows up on the page. You can add animation to it if you wanted to. All right, now for our next section. So as I said, it's great to split things up and have lots of different sections. So it really keeps someone's attention. They're not just watching the same thing where you're just standing there talking. You're really keeping their attention by changing things up a lot. So this is our next part. And again, we want to find out where this video needs to be cut. We want to click on this video. We then want to go to text and choose captions here. Now with here, with the drop down video with audio, you want to make sure that you're choosing the right video, because it may try and select like that first one where we've already done it. So just go in and make sure it's selecting the correct video we want the caption for. All right, so now we have our captions here. So we can go to effects and want to think about how we want this caption to look. So for this one, so a big part of this is playing things back through, checking them and editing, getting it just right. Now let's add some sort of transition before we go into the next one. What I'm going to do now is go over to apps and type in Lottie. So we get Lottie files. Now we're going to try transition. So as you can see, it actually brings up some cool stuff here where we can actually add some transitions in. So we can do something like this. Then what we can do is actually pick what colors we want. So we want to go to new palette and you want to put your colors in. So once you've decided on your colours, set a palette, then you're going to put it on the page. Now you do have to wait a few minutes for it to fix it up and load it. So we're going to stretch it out on the page so it sort of comes in like a blob that then takes over the page. And that can act as a really fun transition. So you can see at the top here, let's put our colours in. So if we need to adapt them in any way, if the colours weren't quite right, you can go back and edit them. So it's given us this sort of fun transition. So what we want to do now is actually click on it. And again, we want to choose the timing. So it's got the timing here, and we want to decide when that happens. So we want it just towards the end. See, and it gives us that transition. So that is really fun. Now, before we move on to the next section, another thing we can do is also adding in B-roll. So we could have this. Maybe we could then add some B-roll, something like this. So as you can see, when you put it in on top, it's like a B-roll. So we can decide when that happens. So let's just play and check that. So we want to move that forward a bit. Now with this B-roll, it covered up the caption, but this is a chance for us to make our own custom bit of caption to have a little bit of fun. So what we can do is write really big for this one. So we're going to get some big text. So another thing we could do is even come in and add any kind of styling. So I might, just to make it interesting, curve it like this. And now what we want to do is adjust that timing. So we want the word learn to come in first. So let's just play that through and see how that looks. So as you can see, that was a really fun idea, and then we've got that fun next transition. So now let's add the last section here. In our last bit of video, and again, you want to edit that, so any cutting. All right, so again, we want to add in our captions. So we want to click on it. We want to go to text, captions. We want to make sure that we've selected the correct one. Generate captions. So for this one, because it's sitting on quite a busy background, we may keep this effect of having that background, but we might just make it bigger. Choose a different color. And of course, choose our font here. Now, if there's anything wrong, so it didn't quite get the caption right there, we can click on captions here and you can actually edit it. So, join me for the, and then we want this capital, because it's the name of an event. So you're able to go in and make those adjustments in there like that. So it's a good idea just to run through all your captions, make sure there aren't any issues too. Now I've got a logo for this, so I'm going to add that in. And then we're going to choose an animation. So we're going to come up here and maybe ink it in. That could be really fun because it's all about creativity. So we'll ink that in. Let's have a look at the options here. That one's kind of cool. So we can add all these little extra things to really make it fun and interesting. So let's decide now when it should come in. So we want it to come in here. Alright, so as you can see, we had quite a few different fun techniques that we used in here. Now we can also, if you wanted to, do transitions where you click between here and add transitions, but I don't feel like these transitions work so well for Reels. But you know, there is those options there if you wanted to do that. The other thing is with your captions, if you, for example, instead of wanting a background on it like that, if you wanted to make these white, say we wanted to just make it real big, and we're going to get rid of the effects, so none. Another way to make this readable is we can move this aside for a second, and we want to make our background here really dark, so like black. Then put that back on top, and then we want to dip the transparency down. And as you can see, now it's making that a lot more readable. So you can do that if you wanted to have just text straight on here without any kind of background. You basically want to make your actual background of your page really dark, so it can be black or dark brown or dark blue, just something really dark. And then put your video transparency down and just adjust it until you feel that it's good and readable. And as you can see, you can now read that a lot better. This one, it does have quite a busy background, so it probably doesn't work as well, but backgrounds where there's not too much contrast, that can work quite well for just making it more readable, just by tinting down that color so that it's easier to have that contrast with your text and easier to read it. Now, one last thing with this transition here, sometimes those transitions may look odd if they just suddenly cut off. So what we can do is, if we don't feel like that's working there, what we'll do is download our video as a whole and then add it to the final video. So what we can do is come to share and download. I'm going to make sure we've selected all our pages and download it. So once that's downloaded, we want to start fresh. We want to come to create a design and back to Instagram Reel. We're then going to go to our uploads and upload that video that we just downloaded. So now what we want to do is look for where we want this transition to happen. So we've got the video up to here, so around there. So we're going to add this transition back on top. Click it and show timing. Now we can just make it so it goes over this section here. And now we can play through to see how that looks. So that was too soon. No. And there we go. So let's watch the finished thing, and I hope this got you inspired about a few different techniques that you can utilize in Canva to create really interesting reels. So you might come up with a completely different style and look, but this should give you the techniques you need to create something interesting. So as you can see, we can have cutout background and add video background. We can add elements and we can animate them. We can even use that choppy crop to create elements that feel cut out. We can also really customize our captions, and we can do B-roll, and we can even add our own big captions where we just pick out those keywords and just put them on and time these elements so they come in at the right time. Then we can use things like Lottie animations for really fun and interesting transitions. We can also darken up our background to make it more easy to read light captions. And we can add other graphic elements and add different animations to them to make them really fun. So as you can see, there's a few different techniques there to make your reels really interesting. And it all begins with planning it out. Think about what you're trying to say. Make sure you record it in a few different ways so that you've got different backgrounds or different angles to keep interest, to make it interesting. And then utilize Canva to add those extra techniques to really capture people's attention and make a really fun, unique and interesting reel.
Are you an artist, designer, or illustrator? You want to get inspired, learn new design skills, and turn your creativity into a profitable business? Then come and join me for the Creativity That Pays Summit, where you're going to learn how to make money from your creativity, learn new design skills and new platforms and different ways that you can make money from your creative skill.
I hope this got you inspired and you're going to experiment in Canva, try out some different things and find a style that's unique to you so that your reels can stand out and you can create something that's unique and interesting, and people start to recognize your brand because you come up with a creative and interesting style to create your reels. Now, if you'd like to see more Canva tutorials and also learn more about branding and graphic design, make sure you subscribe, and happy creating.